Hello, I'm Stephen. Welcome to another episode of How They Got It Wrong on the World According to Stephen. This one's going to deal with a few slightly different but related areas of ways that basic weapon names and functions are distorted and misrepresented heavily and badly in popular media and elsewhere. We'll start with the chain gun. The term chain gun is frequently misused in media, partly because, let's face it, it sounds cool, and people come to associate it with a weapon with a high rate of fire and that does heavy damage compared to its caliber and so on. One of the more egregious examples I can think of by a character who should know better, right, is by Congressman Matt Santos, Democratic candidate for president and Marine Reserve fighter pilot in the West Wing. His campaign manager, Josh Lyman, wants to put him at some sort of pheasant hunting event to make him seem manly and strong and counter to the common image of supposed namby-pamby peacenik Democrats. This will involve use of a shotgun or rifle in that context, and Josh reasons that Santos, as a military reservist, should be familiar with using some sort of gun. Santos clarifies and reminds him what his particular branch is by saying, yeah, a 20mm chain gun might be a little hard on the pheasant. Santos, however, flies FA-18, probably D variant at the time as a Marine, since replaced with the FA-18F and E Super Hornet attack fighters. The internally mounted gun on this aircraft, as with most modern U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, and U.S. Marine Corps fighters, is a 20mm M61 Vulcan. The Vulcan is an electrically driven rotary cannon, commonly referred to as a Gatling gun. It is not a chain gun. A chain gun, in fact, is either a single barrel or multi-barrel automatic weapon in which the action is cycled by means of an electrically driven chain. The Vulcan rotary cannon, although it is electrical, does not use such a chain. It simply rotates its barrels into firing position using electrical power, driving the motor that does that spins it basically, but there's no chain involved. There's not a chain pulling on it. Also, one should note most chain guns tend to have lower rates of fire, maxing out in the low 1000s. The Vulcan has a rate of fire of 6,000 to 8,000 rounds per minute. The variation is due to the fact that, like many rotary cannons, it takes a few seconds to cycle up to its maximum rate of fire. However, 6,000 rounds per minute is still a lot. It means it fires about 100 rounds in a 1-second burst, given that there are, 60 seconds in a minute. This is not the only time that the term chain gun is misused, sadly, to refer to all rotary or all multi-barrel automatic guns. The misnomer is fairly common in media, including video games. Rotary guns, as previously stated, don't use a chain mechanism, nor do revolver cannons, used by some European fighter aircraft, and most single-barrel and single-chamber automatic weapons are not chain guns either. Most single-barrel, semi-automatic, or fully automatic weapons use the energy of each round that is fired to eject the spent cartridge, cycle the action, and load a new round. There are 3 different, more specific mechanisms typically used to do this, referred to as recoil operation, blowback operation, and gas operation. They each in some way use some of the extra kind of energy that's available from the round going off. Recoil operation is more common with semi-automatic handguns. For various reasons, it tends not to be that useful or effective for, fully automatic weapons. Blowback was common with early submachine guns and true machine guns. We'll get to that term in a minute. Gas operation is common with modern assault rifles, but is also used with various other fully automatic and semi-automatic weapons. All of these tend to be subject to some degree to the possibility of potential jams or misfires, mostly if ammunition is poor quality or incorrectly loaded, the weapon is dirty or poorly maintained, or the weapon design is inherently flawed, or a combination of all these things. Could have a perfect storm. In any case, none of them involve a chain. Chain gun mechanisms are mainly used for certain vehicle-mounted weapons, such as the 30mm internally mounted cannon on the AH-64 Apache attack helicopter used by the U.S. Army. Again, they need electrical power to pull the chain, with such vehicles, of course, there should be plenty of that available from the vehicle's power systems and so on, alternator and whatnot. They do have the advantage that the chain will keep working whether or not a round jams or misfires. The same, however, is true of, electrically driven rotary cannons such as the Vulcan. One barrel can jam, but since electrical power is just keeping it spinning and firing, the rest of the gun will just keep on working. While we're at it, there's the way people say machine gun to refer to any fully automatic or select fire weapon. In fact, strictly speaking, machine gun without a qualifier refers to a fully automatic weapon, somewhere in caliber from perhaps 223 Remington or 5.56 millimeter NATO, up to perhaps 14.5 millimeter or 15 millimeter, meant to be fired mostly or only on full auto as a light support or crew-served heavy weapon on a bipod or tripod, or a vehicle-mounted weapon. Traditionally, most machine guns fired at least heavy 30 caliber rifle rounds, but modern squad automatic weapons, which have a similar role to older light machine guns, typically use the lighter calibers shared by modern assault rifles, in part for ease and simplicity of ammunition supply. Some authorities do differ on the exact caliber at which one should stop calling something a machine gun and start calling it a light autocannon, but most seem to draw the line somewhere around 15 millimeters. A select fire rifle that can fire on 3-round burst or full auto is an assault rifle. It is not really accurate to refer to it just as a machine gun. Technically, if it's firing full power 30 cal rounds, some NATO armies now call it a battle rifle, as the characteristics for full auto fire are different from the lighter modern assault rifles, as far as controllability and recoil and climb and so on. Pull also sometimes to one side. A lighter, shorter, more compact select fire rifle might be called a carbine. Right? The concept of the carbine has been around for a while, and compared to the old semi-automatic and bolt-action rifles, the idea of the carbine was it might use a similar mechanism, but be shorter, lighter, easier to carry, used by second-line troops, and so on. And assault or full auto carbines, are still around, fulfilling similar roles. A pistol caliber or intermediate caliber full auto or select fire rifle meant for close-in combat is a submachine gun. It is not a machine gun. To be fair, the distinction between a carbine and a submachine gun can be difficult in some modern cases, and this is part of why the sometimes used classification of personal defense weapon applied to the Fabrique Nationale P90 has emerged. Some authorities also separate full submachine guns, such as, for example, the famous Tommy gun, the M3A1, the German MP40, and Soviet AKSU-74, and so on, from smaller, harder to control, at least on full auto, machine pistols, such as the fully automatic but otherwise pistol-sized Beretta 93R or some variants of the Glock 18. However, what can be a little confusing is, in some languages, the compound word or multi-word term for submachine gun is in fact machine pistol. But we have to realize, in those languages, when they use that word that way, they are talking about something like an MP40 or Uzi or something. Whereas in English, when we talk about machine pistol, we tend to be talking about something like the Beretta 93R, right? Something that is really just pistol-sized, but is select fire or fully automatic, right?